Hello weirdos, welcome back to my channel. My name is EmmaAbe and we have the baby with us. I'm kind of sad because this is the last video that I'm going to be filming with the baby. She's just chilling here, being cute and happy like she always is. Isn't that right? You're just so always cute and happy. The video that we're doing today is really exciting. It is my top books that I read in 2021. And normally people are like, ooh, top 10 books, but I can't do that. I have a hard time getting it down to 15. And that's like my goal every year, is to get it to 15 books. And I did it. So let's talk about them. And yeah, we'll see if the baby likes any of them as well, or if she's just gonna sit there and sleep. So two of them are actually books that I don't own. So I have my little sticky notes. So the first one of those, and oh, also these are in no particular order, because I can't do that. I don't have the emotional bandwidth to do that. And this is also just my opinion. And these are just books that I read in the year of 2021. Oh, look at you. So the first book would be Mama's Boy. This is by Dustin Lance Black, and I came so close to crying in this one, but I was teaching at the time. I was in like the school, and I kind of have a policy of no crying in front of students. It's just a personal policy. That's not to say no vulnerability. I just prefer to not cry in front of my students. It's just a me thing. This is a memoir. So Dustin Lance Black was born in like Texas and grew up in Texas in, I'm gonna get this wrong, like the 80s. And so like homosexuality was very like demonized at the time. And guess what? Dustin Lance Black also gets to be, also is gay. And he grew up in a very, very religious Mormon family. And that just, it's not a recipe for good things to happen. And this is a story really about the relationship with his mother and how he came to accept his identity as a gay man and grapple with Christianity. And yeah, it's all about the relationship with his mother. And oh God, there's just a part in the book where I was like, oof. It was just very sad. And they really do have a really beautiful relationship. Dustin Lance Black and his mom. And so does his siblings. He has multiple siblings. Some of them also turn out to be gay as well. And it's just a lot. And it was so good. I read this early on in the year, and yeah, it was a good one. The next one is Cass by Isabella Wilkerson. Does this need any introduction in terms of why the fuck this is good? It's just good. I don't know what to tell you. It's another nonfiction, big surprise there. It discusses race in America, and it does through by the lens of looking at race and society through a caste system, where white people are at the top and black people are at the bottom, and like everybody else is kind of stratified within there. It's not a super rigid caste system that the author proposes, but it's still really interesting to look at race in America via that lens. And to add to her point, she also compares and contrasts the caste system with America, with the caste system in India, and then also Nazi Germany. So it's really, really, really interesting, and it was really good. And there's some really powerful quotes in there that are very damning for the American audience to have to digest. Yeah, but it was very, very good. All right, now let's move on to books that I own. We joke in my family that she has a hand fetish and a foot fetish because she likes to lick our hands. Isn't that right, baby? She's like, I'm ignoring you. A baby's also not her name. So that I gave a 5-star, and that's on this list, is Eat the Buddha. This is Life and Death in a Tibetan Town. This is by Darbara Demick. And oh my gosh, Darbara Demick is a reporter, and she went to Tibet and she did all the reporting. And this is like the culmination of all the reporting that she did. And holy crap, it's so interesting to look at not only the culture of Tibet, but also the history of Tibet and how that intersects with China and what China has done and is doing to Tibet, I find to be very, very interesting. It was just a really solid piece of reporting and information, and what can I say? I really liked it. I'm very biased though. I'm very, very biased though into like this subject material. So I thought it was really, really interesting and I really loved it. The next book is another non-surprise if you know me and you know the kind of books that I like to read. And that is 1491. This is New Revelations of the Americas Before Columbus. This is by Charles C. Mann. This is just so good. Like, there's so many times in this book where I was like learning new things or just really jiving with the way that Charles Mann was presenting information and debunking lots of myths that we tend to have about Native Americans in America. And yeah, it just led to a really awesome reading experience. The topics and stuff that are covered range from like the entirety of the Americas. So it's not just North America, it's South America, it's Central America too, which I really, really appreciate because I feel like within discourse in America, we tend to forget that Native Americans existed south of like Mexico. Yeah, and I just really appreciate it. This is like a work of scholarship that is right up my alley, kind of similar to the last book in that this is definitely one that I would like. Okay, the next book is a fiction book. I think this is the first fiction book on this list, and that is China Mountain Zhang. This is by Maureen F. Hugh, and this is definitely a character study where there's not much plot and you're kind of just exploring this world that exists. So the conceit of this story is, well, it's in the future. At some point in the future, and essentially Chinese communism has taken over the entire world. And you're following this main character who's Zhang, and he is half Chinese and half Hispanic. He's half Latino. There's that. And so and in the society you get like the most advantages if you are looking Chinese, if you are Chinese because of the way the history worked out. And even more so if you are like from China specifically. Anyway, it's a whole thing. Zhang looks really, really Chinese because of genetic engineering. His parents like genetically engineered him. And on top of that, he is also gay. And guess what China is right now? Very homophobic. It's very, or at least the CCP is very, very homophobic. Do not get me started on their freaking ban on BL dramas. I'm not happy. Anyway, so it's really interesting to follow Zhang and a couple other characters, but the main one being Zhang and how he navigates this world, looking for work, trying to find work, and navigating like in and out of relationships, and how he does that as a gay man. And it's so much more than that, but it's really a character study, and if I go in any more, it kind of like you lose a lot of things, but you get to travel all around the world. You get to go to New York, there goes to China at some point, then there's like a Baffin Island part, and then there's also a Mars part, and you're following different people, so it's pretty cool. I really liked it. I quite enjoyed it. It makes me very happy. And it also does one of those things that does not piss me off, where there is like another language is spoken in little bits of dialogue and the author doesn't automatically translate that for you, which I quite enjoy. Sounds like a silly thing to enjoy, but it's just one of those things. The next is another nonfiction, because of frickin' course, and it is She Has Her Mother's Laugh. This is by Carl Zimmer. And what can I say? This is about science and genetics and hierarchy and I mean, this is just one of those things where it is right up my alley. This is stuff that I really enjoy reading about. And what I think is really cool that Carl Zimmer does is he's talking about like certain points, or is talking about like the history of genetics and like gene mapping. And he's also telling you his personal story of what it was like when he dove into his own genetic code and the parts in the story where he talks about the history and his own personal journey do match up quite well, and I quite enjoy it, and it is very, very good. It's long. It's a chunkster. It's over 24 hours in terms of audiobooks, but it was worth every second, and I was very happy. The next book that I read that got 5 stars for me is Stamped, Racism, Anti-Racism in and You. This is by Jason Reynolds and Ibram X. Kendi, and this is like young adult version of Stamped from the Beginning by Ibram X. Kendi, which I still have not read, but I want to. I'm deeply wanting to. This won, I think, the nonfiction category last year for the Goodreads Choice Awards, and that's why I picked it up, and I quite enjoyed it. I thought that the audiobook was spectacular, and I think that it delves deep enough into the history and is a wide enough lens where it is like easier for young adults to engage in, and to be a really good book to recommend for like high schoolers or stuff like that. And I really enjoyed it, and I think I'm going to enjoy the adult version even more. So there's that one. The next book that I'm going to show you guys, Becoming by Michelle Obama. This is like one of the few books this year that made me cry. I just love the way Michelle Obama writes. It's very, very powerful. The way she's able to tell her story is very relatable. Everybody loves this memoir, and what can I say? It's a fucking good memoir. There really isn't much to add. Yeah, I don't really know what else. See, the baby likes the book. You like it. I don't know what else I could add to this book other than it is a very, very good book. Please pick it up, read it. I think really what makes this book is Michelle Obama's writing and how she's able to come across in the book. The next book is, reading there, is Iron Widow. This is by Xiranjie Zhao. This is also a sci-fi. This is another one of the few fiction books that got on this list. This is a sci-fi, and it's telling the story of Wu Zetian, who is the only Chinese emperor. She ruled in the Tang Dynasty. It's also like a Pacific Rim because they like crossover because they had like these giant like machines basically that they control using chi, and it is a very I don't want to say like super complex like magic system because it's not really. It's fairly simple because you all have the different types of chi that connect to the 5 different elements of water, fire, air, earth, metal, and wood, I believe. Those are all the 5. According to this chart, which is so handy that it's in here, it's water, wood, fire, earth, and metal. Those are the different types of chi that you can have. I know that you're technically not supposed to like Wu Zetian in this, but she was a fucking badass. She like straight up murders people in cold blood. Her whole reason for entering these battles is to murder this one specific man, and she murders him fairly early on in the story. And then I also really liked what it did in terms of love triangles, because there is a love triangle in this, and I love the way that it worked out. I don't want to spoil it, but I mean, Xiranjie Zhao spoils it herself if you follow their like Instagram and YouTube video, YouTube. Yeah, and I really liked it. I can't wait for the next book, because the next book's coming out, because it kind of leaves off at like a cliffhanger, and I'm just like, the fuck. I'm sorry. Did I scare you? Next book is The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind. This is by William Kiwamba and Brian Miller, and this is it's a memoir. It's telling the story of William, who built this windmill right here, pictured here, and was able to generate electricity for his family and his hometown. And they're living in Africa, where access to things like clean water, regular food, and electricity is spotty at best. And I just, the vivid depictions in this of hunger and starvation will stick with me forever. They are seared onto my brain, and they are terrifying. And I just think it is a very uplifting story, and I love the way that it talks about Africa not as a continent full of like despair, but as a continent full of hope and innovation. And I love that. And that just, I think if we all started talking about Africa in in that context, we wouldn't have such negative stereotypes of Africa in America. And yeah, I thought it was a really, really good book. Almost cried, but I did not. I did not. I did not. I did not. Speaking of books that almost make me cry, we have Refugee by Alan Grams. I don't think I was with my students when I almost cried on this one, but it just was a lot. Just was a lot. This is telling the story of 3 different refugees that are all around middle school aged, and this is like a YA middle school book. But I just loved it so much. It was so good. So you're following these 3 young people. So first you have, what are their names? Joseph, who is a Jewish boy who is trying to flee from the Nazis. You have Isabel, she is Cuban, and she's trying to get to America because in Cuba they just didn't have any food. They were running out of food, and so she was a refugee there. And then last person you have is Mahmoud, who is a Syrian refugee who is leaving Syria because of civil unrest. And all 3 of those stories help. I love the way that Alan Grams does this, where he talks about 3 different refugees or 3 different, people, and tells their story and weaves them together from different times, and they all help complement each other to show you the crisis of whatever he's talking about. So in this case, it's refugees, and it shows you that this is a problem that has been going around through history and is still going around today. And then he also provides resources in the back to help refugees. And this book just got really, really emotional for me, especially towards the end when all 3 of the stories start connecting a lot more. Yeah, and this was the first book that I read that had a lot of Holocaust in it. And that was just hard, but it was still really, really good. Well worth your time to pick it up. All right, let's keep going because I don't want to be here for forever. I think these next 5 or 4 that we're going to talk about are all fiction, so that's exciting. The next book is Wall of Storms by Ken Liu. Oh my god, do I need to talk about this more? It's kind of hard to talk specifics about this, but you are following a lot of the characters from the last book that survived, since this is the 2nd book in a series. Basically, to sum up why I love this book, is it takes a lot of the really fucked up elements from the first book and like blows them out of the water. It escalates the stuff it does, the battles, the action plans. There's dragons. It expands the world. Yeah. We're introduced to new characters that I really, really love, like Zomi. I think she's great. Can't wait to see what she does in the next book. And I can't wait to see how the world will expand more. Yeah, this is like a fantasy world that is inspired by like a mix of like a bunch of different cultures, really. Because you have like the more nomadic people who are the invaders, and then who kind of remind me a lot of like Mongols and Mongolian culture. And you have you have Daru, which is the main like country that we're living in, which is a mix of like a few Western elements and a lot of like Eastern like elements in terms of like the society, kind of a blend of like China, Japan, and like a little bit of Korea, but primarily China. And it's just really, really cool, and I really, really love it, and more people should read this series. This next book is Cemetery Boys by Aidan Thomas. Need I say more? Everybody loves this book because it's really good. So you follow these 2 boys. You have Yadriel, who's trying to prove himself as a brujo to his family. Yadriel's also trans, so his family is really reluctant to see him in the role as brujo rather than bruja. Yeah, so in order to prove himself as a brujo, he undergoes this magical ceremony trying to locate his cousin, but he doesn't wind up locating his cousin. He summons another spirit entirely who happens to go to his high school, and the two of them gallivant around the local area trying to figure out what is happening, where is Gabriel's cousin, and over the process they wind up falling in love, and it's really, really cute, and I loved it, and it's heart-wrenching too at times, and yes, I highly enjoyed this. Go read this one. You're getting close to the end. This next book is The Goose Girl. This is by Shannon Hale. This is one of my childhood favorites that I reread this year, and what can I say? It holds up. I really, really liked the world building and the characters. I think it takes quite a simple fairy tale that not a lot of people know about and expands upon it, and it makes it really interesting. So, what's the main character's name? Do you remember? So you have Ani, who is the crown princess of this kingdom, and she's being sent to marry this prince of another kingdom. However, on the way there, her handmaid attempts a coup, and her handmaid takes her place as the princess. And so Ani survives the coup attempt and escapes with her life, barely, and she winds up going to this kingdom that she was supposed to marry into. And she has to figure out a way to eke out an existence, but also, like, prove that she is the princess and not her handmaiden. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. I liked it a lot. And maybe that's just nostalgia talking, but I think Shannon Hale does really amazing work with the books that she writes. But I am very, very biased. The very last book, is one that I actually read in December. And that is The Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation by Mo Xiang Tong Xiu. And need I say more? This book has wiggled itself into my brain and won't leave. This book spawned the series, the TV show, The Untamed, which is amazing, and everybody should watch it. Everybody should read this book too, in my opinion. It is my favorite, like, fantasy, like, TV show. The plot of this is Wei Yang, this character right here, he dies. And the whole cultivation world, the world that he lives in, celebrates his death because they all viewed him as a villain because he practiced demonic cultivation, which they viewed as evil and not good, as incorrect and straying from tradition. And so he was villainized in his first lifetime. But then this character, Mo Xuanyu, he sacrifices his soul so that he can resurrect Wei Ying in Mo Xuanyu's body. So Wei Ying comes back, and it's been 13 years since Wei Ying has been dead. And that's like the second chapter where Wei Ying is resurrected. And so now Wei Ying's just like, okay, I have to, and part of the conditions of him being resurrected is that he has to get revenge for Mo Xuanyu. And except Mo Xuanyu forgot to say exactly who and how to get revenge on. What's up? I'm very excited about this book. Are you annoyed that I keep talking about this book? Because I do all the time. So Wei Ying has to figure out what the frick, how he's going to get revenge. And it turns out he has to kill like 4 people. And by the end of chapter 2, I think, all those people are dead, or most of those people are dead. So he's just kind of like, I don't really know like what to do now, except at the Mo Manor, at the Mo estate, there is this severed arm that is killing people and wreaking havoc. And it's putting people in danger, and people that Wei Ying cares about. And so Wei Ying's like, okay, I got to deal with this arm. And the junior cultivators that are there to like defeat the arm are really overwhelmed, so they call in for backup. And who shows up for backup? Lanzhan, this character. And Lanzhan and Wei Ying, in Wei Ying's previous life, were best friends, sexual tension, soulmates, question mark. They were in love with each other, but they were both too scared to admit it to each other for various reasons. And so now they've met up back again, and they're back together, and angst and hilarity ensue, and they proceed to solve the issue and the puzzle of what the fuck is up with this arm, where is the rest of its body, and how do we lay it to rest. And it's so good. I'm very excited for volume 2 to come out. It's going to be coming out in February, sometime in February, so I'm very excited. And yeah, it's just gay, and it's cute, and it's dark, and it's fantasy, and I love it so much. Everybody should read this freaking book. I love it. There you go. Those are the 15 books that I read last year in 2021 that I loved and that I thought were amazing. And the baby is tired and probably wants to go cuddle or play. I don't know. But she's being cute. See, she just loves to lick. You tired. All right. We're going to say goodbye. Do all of the things like liking, sharing, and subscribing. And have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye-bye.